This is Room 301, a podcast ran by digital agency group The Digital Maze. Room 301 is a podcast all about SEO, PPC, website design, social media, and everything in between. Our aim with this is to equip marketing leaders with all the know-how to run and lead an effective digital strategy. My name is Rob. Let's get into it. Okay, so today's guest is Irina Holliday. Recently joined the company, Digital Maze, as a senior PPC exec, and recently moved into leading the PPC team. So you could say she's very experienced. So let's talk more about you, Irina. So how did you get into the world of PPC? In fact, before that, introduce yourself, say hello, give me some background.
Right, so my name is Irina Holliday, and I am originally from Russia and have been living in the UK for about 6 years. And, I've been working in both agencies and client side, really enjoying both, but prefer agency. And joined Boom very recently, only about 2 months ago, but really enjoying it so far. And how I got into PPC was actually a total accident. Back in 2007, when I moved to Moscow from my hometown called Novosibirsk, and I applied for a technical support job in a hosting company. So their response was that they don't unfortunately have this position available at the moment, but they did tell me that they have a junior PPC vacancy and asked if I'd be interested. So at the time, I had no idea what PPC was, but it sounded interesting, so I applied for it instead, and I got the job. I liked it, and I happened to be good at it, or so I want to believe. And
Cheers.
No pressure. And I've been sticking to it for, nearly 16 years now.
16 years,
I know, so old.
I actually didn't know that.
I know, there you go.
So, when we talk about PPC, in your words, what exactly are we talking about? So, to those that might not know or think it's just Google Ads, it's definitely more than that. So to you, what is PPC?
PPC is essentially meaning pay-per-click. So people tend to think Google when we're talking about PPC, and understandably so, but of course it's a lot more than that. If there is a platform where you can launch ads and pay for clicks, that's essentially it.
Cool. So I'm going to move on to a bit more of a somber subject, obviously.
Oof.
You know, if you wanted to make predictions for next year, it might not be a good year. Cost of living crises, recessions, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. But obviously, running an agency, working in an agency, we're very interested in how that might affect people's marketing budgets and all things like that. So with PPC at the forefront of your mind, currently potentially heading into a cost of living crisis and seeing difficulties there, what do you think that marketing managers, marketing directors need to be thinking about now with their PPC strategy to compensate for those difficulties?
It's a good question, and there is no simple answer to that, at least not the one that would work for everyone, because as many things in PPC and digital marketing, it will depend on a bunch of things. My assumption, and it's only my assumption, is that people's buying habits will certainly change. We did see a big change back in 2020 when we all went into the lockdown and everyone suddenly started shopping online.
And most of a busy year that year, didn't you?
It was such a busy year. And most of clients I managed back then had their best month in 2020 and 2021. So already in 2022, when we are comparing the performance to it, we can see the reduction, which, in my opinion, could be further down, at least for certain industries. I assume it will take longer for people to complete the process from consideration to purchase, as impulse buying won't be quite as common as it was. And again, I'd like to reiterate and repeat my favorite phrase, it depends. Because when you think about it, people will always need certain things like, food, toiletries, etc. But for their basic needs, however, when we're talking about, let's say, high-end furniture or booking holidays, this may take a lot longer to consider before they complete the purchase, booking, etc.
It's luxuries, isn't it? It's luxuries that are going to suffer. But no, I think you're right, and I think that's why, not necessarily PPC related, but I think that's why a lot of marketing strategies should, in my opinion, probably shift, not shift, but a lot of emphasis should be on content generation to help that consideration phase. As you said, I think a lot more people are going to be considering purchases, taking longer to make that purchase. So any content that brands can do to support that and educate potential buyers on what their product does, what are the benefits of their product, and things like that, to help with that consideration phase and bring them into their ecosystem, is going to be a good way to invest marketing budget going forward, and that can obviously increase the performance and efficiency of PPC, obviously off the back of that as well.
Yeah, 100%.
No, that's interesting. So looking forward to next year, and obviously the sort of subject of this podcast is trends and what to look forward to in 2023. Obviously we've covered that off a little bit with the cost of living crisis and stuff like that. But before we jump into what you think might happen next year and where you think the PPC landscape is going in general, do you think that PPC can have trends, or does it stay relatively fixed? It's kind of different, isn't it, to like SEO and things like that, in my view anyway.
I mean, in my opinion, it absolutely has a trend, and PPC is the industry that is changing all the time. And, all 15 years that I've been doing it, I still feel that I don't know so many things because it changes so fast. What I have seen over the years is Google just sort of taking away a certain level of control and prioritizing Google artificial intelligence over manual work. To give you a few examples, match type updates and exact match is no longer being exact as we know it. Responsive search ads taking over. Smart bidding is something that is being used a lot more and works a lot better than a few years ago. Performance max campaigns replacing smart shopping, auto-applied recommendations, honestly, you name it. All of this has been pushed by Google for as long as I can remember, and I'm sure a lot of fellow PPCers would agree with me that not every change from Google is something we welcome with open arms. However, this doesn't change the fact that this is where we're going. Many things are already being automated, and some will be automated in the near or not so near future. I heard many people say it will take our jobs away, but I can't really agree with that.
Where does that leave you?
Wow, be harsh. But as I already said, PPC has always been changing, and our jobs are changing with it. Yeah. So we will just change alongside with wherever Google takes us, or PPC for that matter.
I was going to say, so are you seeing that Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever channel it is we're looking at, are you seeing that they're almost taking the same shape as Google making the change first and they're sort of following suit, or is it very different across the board?
It's a good question. I don't think I've seen it at quite the same pace in Facebook and LinkedIn, but I certainly can see similar sort of patterns. Yeah,
for sure. So what are the things that you think might be happening next year? How would that affect maybe your Q1 strategy for 2023? What are the things do you think are going to help shape the landscape of PPC? And what are you excited for? What are you not so excited for?
Oof, good question. I've been just talking about the automation, etc. by Google. However, in the past couple of years, everyone's reality suddenly shifted for more than one reason. It continues to do so. Whether we want it or not, events influence whatever is happening in PPC in one way or the other. There was Brexit, there was pandemic and lockdowns, now there is cost of living crisis, and other very worrying events taking place in the world. And even though it doesn't seem to be directly related to PPC specifically, it sure affects the consumer behavior, and as a consequence, it affects the businesses too. I would suggest keeping in mind the fact that the customer may take longer to make a decision to purchase a certain product or service, and if you're an agency, make sure your client is aware of that too.
One thing I've been wondering about recently, and obviously there's a lot of, if you follow anything in the media to do with Facebook and Meta and stuff like that, they're putting a hell of a lot of time, effort and money into the metaverse and all things like that, despite the fact that their stock is sinking quite heavily at the minute. But if that does gain traction, which, to be honest, I probably expect it will, to be honest, I mean, how do you think that will affect the likes of PPC as a marketing channel?
Cool. That's a good question. The answer is I have no idea. But if I was to make an assumption or a few, my guess would be that Google search doesn't go anywhere anytime soon. Of course, I mentioned that PPC is a lot more than just Google search, and I'm sure there will be some announcement about ads in the metaverse at some point soon. However, let me give you my favorite example. You locked your keys in your car.
Yeah.
What do? Do you go on the
Panic.
metaverse? Do you go on the metaverse, or do you just, sort of frantically Google the local emergency locksmith to, retrieve your keys? Obviously, it may change in the future, but I don't see it happening in the immediate or near future myself. And again, it's just my opinion. I could be wrong. What I would say, however, is potentially making the PPC ads less text and more image-like. Google has been trialing that with sort of image extensions, and maybe this is something we will see more of.
Cool. Interesting. Got my eye on the metaverse. Don't know how it's going to go. Got my eye on the metaverse.
I got my eye on Elon Musk with his,
Yes.
with his
You've been following that, the
entrance.
Twitter stuff.
What's up?
He's been following the Twitter stuff. He's bought Twitter, and
Yes.
there's a lot of mad stuff happening, isn't there? He's a wild guy.
Yes.
Very, very wild guy. But so is
Very
Mark
wild
Zuckerberg.
indeed.
He's flying under the radar, making all these investments into the metaverse, and the stock is
Yeah.
just sinking and sinking. So it's either going to be an amazing investment. If
Yeah.
metaverse works out and you've got money in the meta stock now, then you're going to make a lot of money. But if it doesn't, you're going to lose a hell of a lot of money. So he's made a massive gamble.
Yes,
But
he
we
did.
digress. This has nothing to do with PPC. Manifest V3. So for those that don't know, well, maybe you could explain. You probably know more than me about this, right? I mean, from my understanding is that it's so Manifest V3 Google Chrome is effectively a way in which Google Chrome is going to work as a browser, what it can do, what it can't do, and it's going to heavily dictate the sort of browsers that people use, and
Yeah.
therefore the browsers that people use can heavily affect the performance of a PPC campaign.
Yeah.
Is that right?
One of the main things that worries people about V3 in Chrome is inability to use the ad blockers.
For real?
So yeah, this is quite concerning, and I personally can see this going in a couple of different scenarios, and even though I'm an expert, it's still very much a guesswork for me.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what we're talking about. The biggest thing, like as I just mentioned, is Google removing the ad blockers, but also discontinue the third-party cookies. But I can see them postponing it yet again, which it already has been done several times by now. And looking how they postponed sunsetting Universal Analytics just the other day until 2024, I wouldn't be too surprised if they would postpone V3 in Chrome. So, scenario number one. I think people will consider using different browsers.
I've been using Chrome for literally 10 plus years. Has it been
Well-
around 10 years? It might not even be around, as long as I can remember. Put it that
Yeah,
way.
I mean, same here, and I know a lot of people who do use Chrome, but I also know quite a few who just, who made a choice and they switched to either Firefox or Opera
yeah.
or whatever for more than one reasons. Either it's RAM or it's privacy, etc. But, as of August 2022, Chrome has had just under 70% of global market share. However, I can see this changing when and if we won't be able to use ad blockers in it anymore, because let's be honest, most people don't exactly like being advertised to. But if I'm wrong, and about 27%, and that's the percentage of global internet users that are using the ad block software, and I believe that's 2021 data, so I'm not 100% sure how this changed now. But 27%, or roughly a third of total internet users, will just suddenly stop using the ad blockers. And we would need to get ready, first of all, for a new chunk of audience that, first of all, hates being advertised to, right? But what else it could trigger? And, my guess would be that there would be a lot more impressions, potentially lower CTR and search, more expensive CPCs and CPVs, etc. But like I said, this is all very much a guesswork until this will actually happen, as we can forecast pretty much anything, but I don't think any of us will know for sure.
Yeah. So when is this all kicking off then? Is it January?
I'm not 100% sure, so I would have to double check that for you.
Yeah. I was just saying, like, you know, a lot of people are going to have to prepare for that.
Yeah.
Not because it's necessarily bad, it may be, but I think actually it's just, if more than anything, it's going to skew data, isn't it?
Yes.
It's going to make data very difficult to read, very difficult to compare.
Yeah, it's not going to be very pretty, that's for sure.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to cost more money? Do you think it's going to waste more money if you're not careful?
I think so, but I could be wrong.
Interesting. So an interesting one, obviously, for me, sort of my role in the business is often speaking to new clients that come on board with a digital maze, and a lot of the time they're either moving from a different agency or they're starting a completely fresh ad campaign. How do we, or in your view, how would you guide a client that panics or worries when they don't see an immediate ROI? What does that mean?
Another good question.
Does it depend?
And the answer is it depends. Joking. I mean, halfway joking, because yes, it depends. But firstly, it's absolutely normal for both things to happen. Not to see immediate ROI and to panic. Because the truth is, more often than not, the campaigns tend to start at a very slow pace, especially when you launch something in a brand new Google ad account which had zero conversion history, so it kind of takes time to accumulate some data and get some performance. In that case, whilst Google bidding is taking its time and money to learn how to optimize your campaigns best, us as an advertisers are just sitting in front of our screens and just pressing F5 over and over again, just hoping to see some conversions, transactions, and ROI. Whenever I'm launching the new campaigns, especially if it's a new account, I'm making sure to let the client know that it may take a few days or a few weeks, and it may be a slow start while Google bidding in the learning phase, which can take up to 4 to 6 weeks for some campaigns. But the key is, in my opinion, to be transparent and honest with the client about the expectations and early results. Be there to answer their questions and just help them to understand that this is not out of ordinary. It may seem frustrating having to explain this over and over again, but imagine yourself in their shoes, right? After all, it's their money that is being spent on the Google, and they surely deserve some peace of mind.
It's interesting, obviously Google needs time to learn, but I think we do as well. I think we need to understand what audience are resonating best to the different ad sets that we're putting out and why, and so on and so forth. And a lot of marketing is experimentation, it's iteration, it's learning what works, what doesn't work, and putting more time, effort and budget into the things that do work and less into the things that don't work. So I think any form of marketing, not just PPC, is all about experimentation and learning in the same way that Google does. And sometimes you have to just sit, hold tight, trust the process, trust the experts, and wait it out. But from my experience working with you in the short time, I've had a massive impact on the business in a short period of time, and we can give that confidence to clients now. We've got someone like yourself who's been doing it for a long time. I can get good results. So, anything else? Any wisdom you want to give to our audience today, Irina, at all? Anything you think's coming up? Anything at all? No?
No.
Fair enough. Well, I really appreciate you coming on today. Appreciate the time.
Thank you for having me.
Like I say, it's been great to work with you so far, and you've only been in the company a short period of time, but I know you've had a massive impact on the business and obviously the people around you, mentoring people. So yeah, thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you again soon.
Cool. Thank you.